We're in the midst of one of the worst seasons in Mountaineer basketball history, and it now has fans asking the question, is it time to move on from Josh Eilert and start looking to the future of West Virginia Mountaineer basketball? Paul and I are going to talk about that exact topic right after this word from our sponsor.
This episode of Hoops from the Hills is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time.
With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for.
Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com, or you can come in person today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
What is up? This is Couz.
My name is Mountaineer Paul.
We are here with another episode of
Hoops from the Hills.
We are approaching a topic today that Mountaineer Paul and I have been really delaying talking about. We didn't really want to broach the subject until we felt it was the right time, and until we felt members of the West Virginia media, or until we saw members of the West Virginia media talking about this topic, and that is whether or not it's time to move on from Josh Eilert. Well, that happened today. We're recording this on February the 15th, and today there was an article at West Virginia Sports Now, who are friends of the show. Our friend Ethan Bach over there put an article out, and we're going to touch on that real quick and share that with you. It says, despite struggles, West Virginia should still be confident with decision looming. WVU basketball is struggling under first-year interim head coach Josh Eilert. Eilert was put in a tough position from the beginning of last June following the resignation of Hall of Fame coach Bob Huggins. While Eilert has tried to make the most of it with denied waivers, suspensions, and injuries, I think it's safe to say WVU Director of Athletics Wren Baker will be looking for a new leader of Mountaineer basketball this spring. On Wednesday, more pieces have moved around the college basketball world as Ohio State head coach Chris Holtmann was let go midseason. OSU now joins DePaul as the two Power 6 schools that will be searching for a head coach this spring. Michigan Athletic Director Wade Manuel also commented on Juwan Howard's job on Wednesday, stating that they haven't thought about any changes at this time and leaving it at that for now. Ohio State's next hire will result in another Power 6 school getting into the mix. This year's coaching carousel is looking like it'll be college basketball's Wild West. We've seen this before recently over on the football side once Nick Saban retired after the season. Alabama then took Washington's Kalen DeBoer, which led to Arizona's Jed Fish going to Washington, and then Arizona hired Brent Brennan from San Jose State. Despite all of this, West Virginia and its fans should still remain confident in Baker's decision moving forward with the basketball program. Now, we're not going to read the rest of that. We'll leave a link. You can go read it for yourself. But that was the main point we wanted to focus on today, is being confident in Wren's ability to hire the new coach, and the fact that Ethan himself said he thinks it's safe to say WVU Director of Athletics Wren Baker is going to be looking for a new coach this spring. Paul, I'll throw the ball to you, my man. What are your initial thoughts?
It's not an easy subject to talk about, and affects more than one person.
Right.
This affects people that I like over there, including Josh Eilert, Jay Kuntz, all the other staff that's there, Jordan McCabe, Deshaun Butler, all those guys, Alex Ruoff. We can go on and on. And unfortunately, it's a subject we have to broach.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to do it. I really don't. But we have to do what's right for our channel members and for our subscribers. So we're going to. At the end of the day, I think the heart of that article is, yes, we're in the middle of a storm, but we have our guiding light, Wren Baker, here, because I think a lot of people around the country trust him. His basketball judgment may be second to none in the AD world. How many ADs have actually coached at the major level?
Mm-hmm.
It's still an accomplishment, to say the least.
Absolutely.
So And he's proven that with hires over time. So I think it's interesting, and I'll be fascinated to see where it goes. I think the future of this basketball program. Uh, this is the most important era in the history of this basketball program, and for multiple reasons. You've got, you know, realignment, and you need to prevent, you have your university positioned in a good spot to look up, attractive on both basketball and football sides, and also having a good leader and head coach in place. You see what the guy like Deion Sanders can do on the good and bad side for a place like Colorado, put them on the map in a lot of ways. Or you could look at like kind of what this Jed Fish situation done on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? And all the negativity that's brought.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there's a bunch of different ways it can go, and I think Wren will handle it with care. I don't think that it's going to happen mid-season. I would be surprised if he fired Josh mid-season. Um, I think they're going to let them try to at least get through the regular season before something's done. But it's time to get on the ball. Just because Josh Eilert is still coaching doesn't mean that another guy hasn't been contacted already. So I think that kind of segues into what our next topic's going to be about. But generally speaking, it's sad. It sucks. We got to trust Wren.
Yeah, and I mean, based on everything we're hearing, Paul, is that things are in motion, and I think we've heard that from others in the media as well, behind the scenes. It's not like the conversations haven't started yet. I mean, theoretically or realistically, they started the conversations back in the summer. When this all went down, right? And the candidate pool's strong. I mean, Wren told us back then there were a lot of people interested in this job, but the timing was just not right for him. I don't see that changing now, and what Paul and I are going to do is we're going to go over a list of some candidates whose names have been brought up, whether it be in the rumor mill, whether it be from some in the media, whatever. The first name we're going to talk about is a coach who a lot of fans seem to want, some don't want, but there is a connection to Wren Baker, and that is Ben McCollum. He now coaches at Northwest Missouri State, and he has won. That's at the Division II level. He has won 4 national championships, has a record of 365 and 86 as a head coach from 2009 until now. So, Paul, what are your thoughts on Ben McCollum?
Well, I think, if you see West Virginia go this way, and this is just being honest, while I think he's probably a genius, and there's risk involved with hiring a guy like McCollum because of the unknown factor. And maybe Wren has no doubt, and this is his guy and has been all along. If he hires him, I'll say, you'll hear me say it then. At the end of the day, we have to trust Wren. He must know something we don't know. But I think with McCollum, obviously the winning matters, and he's done it and done it heavily and in spades. But he doesn't. He has more advantages where he's at than he will have at the major Power 5 level, and where he's at now, he's got the juice. You're the winningest program around, and you pretty much like where everybody wants to go at that level. So you come to West Virginia, and you're going to be have to fight like cats and dogs for every single prospect, and you're not going to be able to afford every prospect, and money does come into the picture. You don't know how a guy's going to handle that. And unfortunately, the Jimmies and the Joes matter more than the X's and the O's. So you can have a great coach, and I do believe coaches in college wield more authority and have an impact on the results more so than in the NFL, especially or NBA. But even at that, we've seen John Calipari go and win the whole damn thing with 5 freshmen, and so at the end of the day, you get the 5 best players they can erase a lot of mistakes the coach makes. So I think McCollum would be, if you see them West Virginia go this route, it means that we've missed on quite a few coaches, and likely a few other openings have come open that may be better than us. One that the Ohio State job is interesting because they probably have more NIL dollars than we do. You would assume, even on the basketball side, because they've got such huge support there.
Mm-hmm.
And just maybe Alabama comes open because Nate Oates leaves and goes to Ohio State. Just for instance, now you're competing with Alabama, and it can have an effect that trickles downward like that, and affect multiple major jobs that would be considered on the same level as West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Before we move on to the next name, I want to say something real quick. We should have said this at the beginning, but there's going to be people in the comments to say this, so I'm just going to address it now. Bob Huggins is not coming back, so you may as well get that out of your head. Now, if something crazy happens and he does, then I'll take the L and I'll tell you and I'll admit it. But they're not going to hire Bob Huggins back. As long as Gordon Gee is the president of West Virginia University, they're not going to hire Bob Huggins back, period. So it's best just to move on from even – his name isn't going to be on our list. So I just want to get that out there.
Not because we don't want him back.
No. I love Huggy Bear. I don't mean that as a shot at him at all. I'm just talking about, will he get the job? This is strictly, is he a candidate for the job? I don't think he is.
Brass tacks.
Yeah.
This is brass tacks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love Huggins. I about cried when all that happened, dude. I mean, it was emotional. I mean, it was a big deal, right? I love the guy. He's one of my favorite. I've said this multiple times on the show. He's one of my favorite Mountaineers of all time. And I think they should build a statue of him one day. I still think that. But I think it's time to move on. All right. The next one on the list is, we're going to start off with a couple names that I think that we think are, or at least I think, and I think Paul agrees with me, are attainable from guys who are coaching at a slightly lower level. The first one on the list is Will Wade. Will Wade, little bit of controversy. We all know he was involved in a recruiting scandal at LSU, got fired. But since then, he's resurrected himself, so to speak. He's currently coaching at McNeese. His overall head coaching record is 20-3. Or I'm sorry, that's at McNeese. He's 20-3 at McNeese right now. And at LSU, he was 105-51. So he did well at LSU. And that's at a Power 5 level. His record, he was 18-15 in year one, 25-5, went to the Sweet 16 that year, 21-10, 19-10, and 22-11. That was his seasons at LSU. He's now at McNeese, where he's 21-3 right now. So Will Wade is a heck of a basketball coach. Paul, what are your thoughts on Will Wade?
Yeah, he's one of the ones I'm most excited about. He's only 41 years old. That's another thing. He was coaching VCU when he was in his 30s, guys.
Yep.
He's continually moved up. So what he got fired for it's legal now, pretty much. So that would be the one thing, if I were him, to sell myself onto a Power 5 is, I would own up to those mistakes and say, look, you don't have to worry about me doing it again because we're allowed to do it now, where at least other people can.
Through the collective, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We can, now I can just worry about, hey, I want this guy, that guy, whatever. He is an elite recruiter. And, maybe it's because of his age, he can relate. He's extremely energetic on the sidelines. I've always loved his coaching style. He does come with some blemishes, but he's easily one of my top 2 or 3 prospects for this. I love the idea of, right after Huggins messes up, us bringing in somebody that's got a little bit of baggage. People kind of snub their noses at us and then just rubbing it in their face. But this is a guy that may not be on everybody's list that is of the quality of some of the other players, other coaches. let's say, we want to go after Nate Oates or Musselman or even a Dusty May, but we can't get him. Maybe Will Wade's a guy you can get that has a similar impact with a little bit of baggage.
I like him. I'd be okay with it, but my concern with him is I'm not sure West Virginia University, meaning Gordon Gee, Wren Baker, whoever, or the board would be okay hiring him because of the baggage. West Virginia likes to be squeaky clean, and I'm not sure they're going to bring in somebody like with that past. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'd be
It's
okay
been
with
so
it.
long,
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with
so
it.
long ago. Yeah.
But again, not sure the university would. But we'll see. We'll see.
Now, he does have some extra baggage as far as he had to serve a 10-game suspension this year. He has a 2-year, I can't remember what kind of contract they call it, but
show clause, probably.
yeah, it's a show clause. Yeah.
Or show cause. Show cause. I'm sorry. Show cause.
Show and cause. Yeah.
The next name on the list is another one that is probably attainable whose name has popped up, and that's Greg McDermott from Creighton.
Uh-huh.
Again, now I say he's not really lower level. He's in the Big East. The Big East is a Power 5, Power 6, whatever you want to call it, school. But I do think West Virginia would be a step up, especially when you look at his salary at $1.3 million. West Virginia could afford to pay him more than that. The
Right.
Big 12 is a more prominent conference. I mean, most say it's the best conference in the country. But when you look at his record overall as a head coach, his record is 596 and 351, which is a 63% winning percentage. He's been the head coach of Wayne State, North Dakota State, Northern Iowa, Iowa State, and Creighton.
Yep.
So, and he's had success at every step along the way. Iowa State, a Big 12 school, he finished. Now, he had a losing record at Iowa State, but that was before Iowa State was Iowa State. They weren't as good then. But look what he's done at Creighton, though. I mean, his record at Creighton is 317 and 157. So that's more recent. That's from 2010 until now. So, what are your thoughts on Greg McDermott, Paul?
Well, I think the Iowa State stuff does give you cause to pause, but certainly he's matured as a coach and as a man. He's a little older. He's one of the older, he's not old by any means, but I think he may be in his 50s or 60s, somewhere in there. But, he's
59.
been around a long time. Yeah. I knew he was close to 60.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's not old, but does he have the same energy a guy like a Will Wade would have coming into this, or a Dusty May or a Pat Kelsey? I don't know. And I think that's the kind of guy we need for West Virginia. Listen, Greg McDermott's great. He would be a great consolation prize, but he's not the main guy for me.
Yeah.
There's way better coaches out there, in my opinion. He's been at Creighton forever. And I don't think he will leave Creighton easily either. He's been there for a freaking long time, man.
Yeah.
So personally, I think he's a safe choice. And he has, there is upside there because you give him more resources, and maybe he's learned a lot at Creighton and learned what not to do at Iowa State, and maybe he really does come to a place like West Virginia in his later years and win big. I would certainly could be talked into it, but you've heard what I said.
Yeah. I'm not as high on him either, just for basically the same reasons you did. I mean, his one stint at a Big 12 school, he didn't do very well. But again, I know that was a long time ago, but still it does kind of raise the red flag to me a little bit. He's at Creighton where the focus is all on basketball. He's not going to get that necessarily. Not that, I mean, West Virginia basketball is very important at West Virginia, but at the end of the day, when you're in the Big 12, the ACC, the Big East, I'm sorry, the Big 10 or the SEC, basketball rules the day, right? So,
right.
Can he succeed at a place where football might take a little bit higher priority? That would be a concern for me. Another name that fans are this is probably, if I had to guess, the top name on most people's list. Okay. it's the last coach we're going to talk about from a lower level school, and that is Dusty May from FAU. Dusty
Right.
May, really high on just about everybody's list right now. When you look at his resume, he's 47 years old, so not much older than me. So he's young as far as coaches go. He's been an assistant coach at Eastern Michigan, Murray State, UAB, Louisiana Tech, Florida. Then in 2018, he became the coach at Florida Atlantic. His overall record at Florida Atlantic is 120 and 65% winning percentage. And that includes a trip to the Final Four last season. And right now, he's 19-5 this season with FAU.
Right.
So, Paul, I'll give you the floor, my man. What are your thoughts on Dusty May?
Yeah, he's not my top choice, but I do think he's had a great 2-year run at FAU. I think people have to be careful here. A lot of people love what he's done at FAU. Getting FAU to the Final Four is certainly, most definitely, one heck of a. I mean, it's incredible, really.
Right.
It's but we've seen it happen. We saw Butler do the same thing. And that guy went and coached in the NBA, and now he's in the management in the NBA. And oh, by the way, who was his head coach?
Joe Mazzulla.
Joe Mazzulla. So there's always a West Virginia connection when we're talking about anything.
It is. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have a lot of meat on the bone to look at, and he's really just at that point in his career where he needs to go somewhere and prove it or not, And one thing about what May did last year was that was a really old team. Almost every one of them almost returned this year. A lot of people still think that if they get in, they'll make the Final Four because of how they're built. And I just wonder if that can be replicated at a place like West Virginia. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely will. Now we're going to get into some names of guys who are at a Power 5 school. Some are names that I have only seen pop up recently, and others are names that I definitely recognize. And the first one we're going to talk about,
just wish lists,
Yeah, these are guys who are probably less attainable, or at least harder to attain. The first one's Lamont Paris from South Carolina. I was not familiar. I got to be honest. I was not real familiar with Lamont Paris from South Carolina, but I have now educated myself on him. Paul, what are your thoughts on Lamont Paris?
Well, he's done an outstanding job, and not just at South Carolina. Chattanooga, he did a great job too. I think, he's a young coach. We have never hired a black coach at West Virginia. I think we brought this up off camera. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's the be all end all or that we should focus on the color of somebody's skin for any kind of hire. But I do think it would be a nice thing if it happened. I think it'd be cool, just to have that happen at West Virginia, a place where people think that kind of thing doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened. I think it'd be cool, and I think it'd be great for the players, But at the end of the day, is he qualified for the West Virginia job over some of the other guys? I think that's the question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
What he's done at South Carolina this year is incredible, but
can he sustain it, though?
Is there enough meat on the bone? I think you look at the Chattanooga stuff, he did well there after a couple startup seasons. And it looks like what he's shown is usually by year 2, he's getting that thing turned around. What he did at Chattanooga, it took about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What he did at South Carolina has taken 2 years. And in both situations, they went from not very good to really good quick. So maybe that's what he does. And he's a team builder, and that's really what we need at West Virginia. So I think he'd be a sneaky good pick. And to me, it's just, when you get down to guys like him and, Dusty May, I think you're probably similarly attainable as far as, you'd be competing with South Carolina guys. It's not like you think South Carolina's just going to give their coach away. No, they're
Right.
probably going to match an offer. Can we outbid South Carolina all the way up? I don't know. Are we willing to? Is he worth that much? There's a lot that goes into it. At the end, I just think we'll to wait and see on this one.
And by the way, there's a West Virginia connection with this too. I just now noticed it. He has been an assistant coach at Akron, which is one of the first schools Bob Huggins coached at.
There it is.
But no, his overall record at South Carolina, and he's been there 2 years, his overall record is 32-25. First season, 22-23, he was only 11-21. But in year 2, he now sits at 21-4 at South Carolina, and this is in the SEC, guys. This is not, this is not G5. This is not. It's not mid-major. It's a Power 4 school, Power 5 now, Power 4 in the future. At Chattanooga, he was 27-8 in his final year there, which he took him to the NCAA tournament. Overall, he's 87-72. But his first 2 seasons, as you mentioned, he struggled. He was 10-23 and 12-20. But then he flipped the script in year 3 and went 20-13 and went 18-8 and then 27-8. So again, started off a little slow, took him a year, 2 years to get his guys. Once he got his guys in, boom, they start winning basketball games. He's been an assistant coach. He worked his way up the ladder, started off at Worcester, which is where he played. Then he went to DePaul, then IUP, then Akron, then Wisconsin. Then he got his first head coaching gig at Chattanooga. So again, he's worked his way up the ladder and has really moved up pretty quick. I mean, he's only 49 years old. And I'll tell you something else I like about him, Paul, is he's from Findlay, Ohio. He has that Ohio connection.
Regional, yeah.
Yeah, he's regional. He's going to be able to recruit the area. And West Virginia has historically gotten a lot of their best players from the state of Ohio. So he's going to have some connections there. He can get guys in that aren't far from home. You're less likely to, you're more likely to keep them on the team if they're closer to home. That's been proven. So
yeah.
And by the way, he coached under Bo Ryan at Wisconsin.
There you go.
They made it to the Final Four national championship game and so on there. So he's coached under some good coaches. So I'm like you. I think this is a sneaky good pick here. The more I learn about him, the more I like it.
I wouldn't be mad at it. Definitely him over McDermott.
Now we're going to talk about one that's probably even harder to attain, and that's Nate Oates at Alabama. Now, his name started popping up because his name came up for the Ohio State job.
Yeah.
We all know he's the head coach at Alabama right now. He has a record there of 109-49, which is awesome. His overall record as a head coach in college is 205-92. His head coach in high school before that was 222-52. So the guy's won at every level.
Yep.
And he's only 49 years old. So what are your thoughts on Nate Oates, Paul?
Well, he'd be a slam dunk. Can't miss. Ecstatic. Praise Jesus. If we get him,
Hercules.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the thing that the Buckeyes hold over us is that brand name. They've got 2 pretty recent national championships, and they can afford to compete with Alabama as high as they want to go with each other. We would have to overpay like crazy to get a guy like him into Morgantown, and most would see it as a step down at this point in both basketball programs. Now, listen, I'll put West Virginia up against Alabama's basketball historically any day of the week. But if we're talking about the last 2 years, there's just not much comparison to be made. That Alabama's been really good, and we've been mediocre or really bad, So it would be a challenge. You would have to sell him on basically the Big 12, the way that's headed, maybe. There's not a whole lot but I mean, you just have to hope. You just have to hope something like this could happen for us. At the end of the day, it's unlikely. So I'm trying to make any kind of excuse for it to happen.
Yeah, I actually disagree with you. I mean, Ohio State is not as good a brand in basketball as they are football, in my opinion.
And won 2 national championships in the last 20 years. 07 and 08, you know.
I guess you're right there. I don't see them. I don't know. I just don't look at them with the same lens that I see somebody like a Kentucky or a Kansas or a.
But from a coach's perspective, I'm saying if you're sizing up West Virginia, you're sizing up Ohio State in this NIL era.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just the assumption I would make is, well, they're going to have more money than them.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's not disclosed to us what everybody makes or has.
Right.
But I would assume that West Virginia or that Ohio State they have more boosters and money than we do, you know? And unfortunately, that plays a factor. Before NIL, I would give us the edge. Absolutely.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't see this one as likely. As a matter of fact, had it not been for his name coming up in the Ohio State job, we probably would not have even have included him because I just think it's
right.
I think it's kind of pie. I hate to say it because I don't want it to make it sound like I'm talking negative about my favorite team, but I'm just trying to be realistic here. I think it's kind of pie in the sky to get Nate Oates.
Right.
But I do think it would be a home run hire. I mean, we know the players are going to like him. I mean, look how he supported his guys last year when they had all that controversy about the gun situation. You talk about it. I mean, heck, I even made fun of him for it. I ain't gonna lie. I made fun of Alabama a little bit about all that last year. But at the end of the day, if you're a player, who wouldn't want to play for a guy who's going to have your back like that, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be a home run. Now let's talk about a few guys I'm not going to pop their names up on the screen. We all know who they are. First off, let's talk about John Beilein. Now, John, there's a little bit of a, I don't know, conspiracy theory maybe. John Beilein has recently been announced he's going to be speaking at a Mountaineer Athletic Club event in April in Charleston, West Virginia. And obviously that's got some people on social media talking. It's kind of a conspiracy theory that maybe he's going to be the next coach. I'm not going to go that far. Do you think there's a chance that we get John Beilein?
Well, the lines of communication were open during the coaching search, right?
Right.
If you were to look at this thing logically, here's probably what's really happened here. You know, they went down to Michigan to talk to him on a red-eye flight, I believe it was, or on a late flight. Apologies for my allergies, guys. And obviously he almost became our coach, but our players were transferred, and it was too late to have anything done.
Mm-hmm.
So my theory is that the lines of communication were opened at that point in time, and they said, "Hey, now that we have opened the lines of communication up with this guy, I'm sure Wren was like, he texted him or had somebody text him and say, "Hey, can you do this thing for us?" And maybe that fosters a good relationship that would turn into a basketball situation. Certainly, it's a home run hire if he's even 5 years younger, But that 70 mark is like, you just start to worry at that age, like that it's just old, man.
Yeah.
So while I could be sold on it for stopgap 2, 3, 4 years at the very most, but really 2 years is as long as I'd want to do it. I think, that would happen in a situation where similar to like a McDermott, where you've swung and missed on all your top candidates and Beilein's right there and would be an amazing consolation prize that you could probably build a really good basketball team for a couple of years,
Yeah.
I have trepidation with the age is basically the only thing. If he's 65, 62, something like that, I'm like, man, he's probably still got 10 years left. But
all right, we're going to play a really quick, fun game because this has been a long video, but this is going to be quick and fun. I'm going to give you two names, and you tell me which guy you'd rather have. John Beilein.
Calipari.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about him. There's some rumors that Kentucky may not be happy with him, and if he becomes available, but again, he's in his late 60s, isn't he?
Early to mid.
Okay. I thought he was older than that.
He's I'm swinging at John Calipari. He's in it right now. He hasn't been retired like Beeline has. I'll just Jimmy John Calipari.
Okay. He's younger than I thought he was. He's 65.
Right, early to mid. Yeah.
I'm taking John. Okay. Assuming he's not available, John Beeline or Ben McCollum?
Beeline.
Beeline or Oates?
Oates.
Beeline or Paris?
Paris.
Beeline or McDermott?
Beeline.
Beeline or May?
May.
Beeline or Wade?
Wade.
Awesome. We should just do every video like that, make it last about 30 seconds and be done.
Yeah.
That way they don't have to hear us run our mouth for over 30 minutes like on this one. But anyway,
yeah,
I don't really have anything else to talk about. I think we covered our bases here. Guys, let's just face it. It's within a couple of weeks, they're going to be looking for a new basketball coach more than likely. Nothing bad. I mean, this group of coaches right now have been handed a poop sandwich to keep it clean. They've been trying to make chicken salad out of it, but they've not been able to. But at the end of the day, I think Wren Baker, I think it's in his best interest probably to just move on and clean house and start from scratch. I think at the end of the day for this program, for this school, for this team, that's probably what they need to do. Move on from any connection to Bob Huggins, as bad as I hate to say it. Let Wren put his stamp on the program. And look, I hope some of the guys on the staff get retained. I'm not saying they need to clean house. I'm not saying they should. But I think that's probably what's going to happen, at least from the head coaching standpoint. Again, I could be totally wrong, and Josh comes back next year. Who knows? But I think it's extremely unlikely at this point with where this team is. And Paul, do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, we appreciate you tuning into this episode of Hoops from the Hills. We thank you for your support. We'll see you next time. We're done.